Everyone says Kyle Larson is the greatest all-rounder on the planet. Sprint cars, midgets, dirt late models, a cup title, a bloke who runs 60-plus races a year in machines that'd terrify most professionals. The resume is stupid. It's cartoonish. And when American racing media crowns their king of versatility, there's usually only one name on the lips. But here's the question nobody's actually sat down and answered. Have they truly analyzed what Shane van Gisbergen did at the mountain? Because while the U.S. was busy calling Larson the most complete driver alive, a Kiwi walked into the most brutal road course discipline on earth, won 3 Bathurst thousands, then flew halfway across the world and won a NASCAR Cup race on debut, something that hadn't happened in the modern era ever. So we've got two men, two completely different planets. Larson, forged on the high banks and the loose dirt of America. SVG, sculpted on the ragged edge of a mountain in New South Wales, where a mistake doesn't cost you a position, it costs you the car, and sometimes a lot more. Larson is the master of the oval. SVG is the apex hunter of the road course. And the internet has spent 2 years screaming past each other about who's better, without ever comparing the actual skills underneath. Stick around, because by the end of this video, I'm giving you a data-backed verdict on who is genuinely the more skilled driver, not the most famous, not the most marketable, the most skilled, and the answer surprised even me. Let's start where Larson is a god, Bristol Motor Speedway. If you've never stood trackside at Bristol, understand this. It's half a mile of concrete banked at up to 28 degrees, and it's not a racetrack, it's a washing machine on its spin cycle with 39 other cars inside it. Cup cars get around there in the 15-second range. You are never, ever off the throttle for long, and the walls are close enough to touch. Now, here's what Larson did in the 2024 Bass Pro Shops night race. He led 462 of 500 laps. Read that again, 462. That's the most laps led in the history of the Bristol night race. He broke a record that stood at 415. He won by over 7 seconds, which at a half-mile bull ring is a full country mile. It was flat out one of the most dominant short-track performances anyone's produced this decade. So what's the skill? Because he drove fast in circles is what people who don't understand ovals say. At Bristol, the whole game is the throttle and the top of the corner. The car is constantly trying to get loose. The rear wants to step out every single lap as the tires go off. Larson's genius is a right foot that operates like a dimmer switch, not an on-off button. He can feel the rear axle unloading a tenth of a second before it actually breaks traction, and he catches it with the throttle and a whisper of steering before the slide even happens. And the tire management. Bristol eats rubber. The elite move isn't going fast on lap 1, it's managing the fall off so that on lap 40 of a run, you've still got grip while the field is sliding into the fence. Larson runs multiple lanes, high and low, hunting for fresh rubber and cooler track like a shark reading a current. That is a lifetime of dirt track feel translated onto concrete. On dirt, the car is always sliding, so Larson learned car control at a level most tarmac racers literally never experience. So here's the tension. Drop SVG into that environment cold, and it's a different sport. Bristol is about committing to a slide and living in it for hours. Supercars road racing is about precision, braking, and never letting the car get away from you. Would the Kiwi even survive 500 laps of that chaos? Hold that thought, because it cuts both ways and hard. Quick one. Later in this channel, I'm dropping a full breakdown on where SVG's oval program actually goes from here, including the one-track type that could turn him from a road course specialist into a genuine title threat, which is exactly what Larson himself has warned about. If you want that prediction before everyone else catches on, hit subscribe now so it lands in your feed. Right back to the mountain. Mount Panorama, Bathurst, the mountain. If Bristol is a washing machine, Bathurst is a knife's edge laid across a mountainside, 6.2 kilometers of public road that closes for racing with residents' driveways off the actual circuit. It climbs, it plunges, and there is no runoff. The wall is right there. You get it wrong across the top of the mountain, and you are a passenger in a very expensive accident. The section that defines the whole place is the run from Skyline down through the S's to the Dipper and out at Forest's Elbow. And the Dipper is a sharp left-hander that drops away downhill so violently the inside wheels of a supercar physically lift off the road. You're braking, turning, and cresting a blind drop simultaneously with a concrete wall inches from your door while the car goes light exactly when you need it planted. There is no margin. None. SVG owns this place. 3. Bathurst 1,000 wins. 2020, 2022, and back-to-back in 2023 when he beat Brody Kostecki by 21 seconds in a 161-lap enduro. That's not luck. That's a bloke operating in a zone most drivers can't access. Now here's the technical bit that separates the disciplines. A supercar uses a sequential gearbox, and SVG is famous for trail braking, deep carrying the brake all the way to the apex, rotating the car on the brake pedal, balancing it on that knife edge between grip and disaster. It's surgical. Where Larson at Bristol lives in a managed slide, SVG at Bathurst lives in managed precision, millimeter-perfect placement at 250 kilometers per hour with zero room for error. And then he proved the versatility wasn't a fluke. Chicago 2023, first NASCAR Cup start ever, leads 60 laps, wins. Then in 2025, he goes on an absolute tear on the Cup road courses, including a run of dominant wins at places like Mexico City and Sonoma, stacking up road course victories at a rate that put him among the most efficient road racers the sport has ever seen. Even Larson said it plainly, SVG is way better than us on road courses, and if he cracks the ovals, he's going to be dominant. So let's play the swap. 10 laps. Larson jumps in the supercar at Bathurst. SVG jumps in the Cup car at Bristol. Larson at the mountain, his car control is so freakish he'd be quick immediately. But Bathurst punishes the tiniest overstep with a wall, not a spin, and adapting to trail braking a sequential box at the Dipper with no margin is a genuinely dangerous ask on cold knowledge. SVG at Bristol. The precision translates, but he'd have to unlearn a career of not letting the car slide and instead learn to dance on the edge of grip for 500 laps in traffic. That's Larson's home turf, and it's chaos. Both would be fast. Neither would be comfortable, and that discomfort is the whole point. So before I give you the verdict, I want yours. If Larson and SVG lined up in identical supercars at Bathurst tomorrow, full 1,000, everything on the line, who takes it? Drop a New Zealand flag for the Kiwi or a U.S. flag for Larson in the comments. I read every one, and I'll pin the best argument from each side. Now, the revelation. Who is the more skilled driver overall? Here's the honest, data-backed answer. It depends on how you define the word, and that's the trap everyone falls into. If skilled means breadth, the sheer number of disciplines mastered, it's Kyle Larson, and it's not particularly close. Dirt, ovals, road, sprint cars, a cup title. Nobody on earth has his range. The man is a once-in-a-generation talent, but if skilled means the highest single peak of raw specialized mastery, the ability to walk into the hardest arena in a discipline and dominate immediately, then it's SVG. Winning on debut at Chicago and then torching NASCAR's road courses as a rookie is a feat of pure driving skill Larson himself has never matched on tarmac. Larson is the greatest all-rounder, but SVG might just be the greatest pure road racer alive, and he did it in 2 hemispheres. So the real answer, Larson is the most versatile driver in the world. SVG is the most transferable. And the frightening part, the part that keeps Larson up at night, is that SVG is still learning the ovals. Which brings us to the fight that's actually coming, because there's one arena where these two are on a collision course, and neither of them can hide their weakness there. Next video, what happens when SVG finally cracks the oval code, and why Larson's dirt empire might be the very thing that costs him the war. Don't miss it.